Do you find yourself having a big portion of protein directly after training, a match or a gym session? Well, that might not actually be enough. We're going to look at some of the causes or mistakes that happen because of that and some strategies we can put in place to make sure you're getting enough protein in across the whole day as opposed to directly after each training. The second thing we're going to look at is inconsistencies around protein intake. So players will often put an awful lot of focus around the post-training recovery shake or recovery meal. And it's obviously really good to see protein shakes or milks in players' gear bags or in the car straight afterwards, or some teams like having the funding to go towards a slab of milk that comes straight into the dressing room afterwards and players can drink them straight away. Like, great to get that on board. I know I went to college with a lad, he was in the Munster Academy, and he was so obsessed with having the protein straight after a gym session or a match that he said as a backup, in case he ever forgot the protein shake or the scoop of whey in his gear bag, he would leave 2 cans of tuna and a can opener in there, just in case. Now again, great to see the bit of planning ahead around this and that he had a fail-safe in case that went wrong. But I would wonder, first of all, is it really that important? But more importantly, what did the teammates think of him when he was opening up this can of tuna and just the general smell of it? So while that is really important, I would say that it's possibly even more important to have carbohydrates straight after to replenish all the glycogen you've just used. But what's really most important is the total amount of protein across the day is actually the priority. Ensuring you're getting enough over the whole day from 24-hour block to 24-hour block, as opposed to that serving directly after training, is going to be way more important. And when I say get enough from 24-hour period to 24-hour period, how much do we actually need? And following on from the carbohydrate piece, I don't want to be completely tight to numbers, but they are the big governing principle. So the general recommendations around very active athletes who do some resistance training and a variety of different training methods should aim for between 1.6 and 2.2 grams per kg of body weight. So again, to use myself as an example, an 80 kg male, that's somewhere between 130 and 170 grams of protein a day. Again, there's a reasonable variance there. To give you a few examples of foods, so again, remember, between 130 and 175 for me. An egg contains 6 grams, so you need a lot of eggs. A chicken fillet contains 30, so you're talking a minimum of 4 chicken fillets over the day if that's the only protein I was to eat. A standard scoop of whey protein is 24, so you're getting more from a chicken fillet than you are from a scoop of whey protein. And any protein milks you buy will vary generally from between 24 to 33 grams of protein. So again, about the same as a chicken fillet, about the same as a scoop of whey, about the same as 4 eggs. If you're gaining weight, a lower amount of protein per day, so looking at the 1.6 or the 130 grams a day, will probably actually be enough, because if you're getting more calories in general, that will be a big help on recovery. As opposed to if you're trying to lose a bit of weight, you want to be going for higher protein there, because it'll help hold on to what muscle you have to try and ensure you're losing fat, not muscle, if dropping weight. It's also going to just help with appetite management, because you feel a little bit fuller. It's going to help slow down digestion across the day, so it'll be a little bit easier to maintain appetite levels and hunger levels with higher protein as opposed to with lower protein. When it then does come to timing, so we're talking about that serving straight after training, it's not like hugely important around exercise, but you want your protein to be spread out fairly evenly across the whole day. So if we think about that in practical terms, it probably is good to have something straight after training. So if you train at 7:30, it's 9:30 having a serving of protein. You probably didn't eat one at 7 o'clock. It's probably even back to 6 or 5:30 or 5 o'clock since you had the last serving. So going from 5 to 9:30, it does make sense to have a serving of protein then. Hence why it's good to have one straight after training, just to balance out the servings across the day, as opposed to the real necessity directly after training, albeit a good habit in general. So you want to be aiming for 4 to 5 portions across the day. Where timing does, I find, become really important is a breakfast, because you've gone 8, 10, 12, 14 hours without any serving at all. So having some straight away when you wake up is good to get a serving in, but it also just helps you balance out the portions across the day. If you didn't have one at breakfast and you're having 3 to 4 meals a day, you're going to require very big servings in your lunch, in your dinner and whatever snacks you have, as opposed to having a decent serving at breakfast. It just I suppose, takes the pressure in terms of numbers off the other meals later on the day. Now, if I'm going to say it's really important to have some at breakfast time, the least I could do here is give you some examples of what to have at breakfast time. Really helpful ones, overnight oats can be so helpful here if you put in a lot of 0% Greek yogurt, potentially add a scoop of whey, use protein milk in that way. Protein porridge, whether it be made with, not to be pushing supplements and saying whey is really important, but it can be helpful to supplement, particularly with meals like porridge and that, or just make it with protein milk. Eggs and medallions are really good here. 0% Greek yogurt, I mentioned already. Eggs, but you'll need more than one. You'll need at least 3, potentially 4 eggs. And how you have them doesn't overly matter here. If you prefer scrambled, if you prefer boiled, if you prefer poached, that's fine. Protein milk on Weetabix can be a really helpful one here as well. Like in general, breakfast cereals aren't a great idea, so swapping them out for something that is higher in protein is going to be a way better idea. Does the type of protein matter? It does, but not like a huge amount. It matters a bit, but not massively. So to give a tiny bit of theory on this, protein is made up of amino acids. Of the amino acids, leucine is the most important one for muscle regeneration, muscle protein synthesis, to give it a technical term. If we want to eat proteins that are generally higher or contain leucine, then if we look for any animal-based source, it's going to give us what we need. And what I mean by animal-based source is there anything that's like meat-related, so pork, beef, chicken, or fish, it is an animal, but also anything that comes from animals, so dairy or eggs or yogurt, because they are derived from animals, not directly meat. It's not saying you can't get enough of a high quality protein diet from a plant-based diet. You can. It just needs a little bit more thought and variety. It's like more putting together the pieces of a jigsaw. If your only protein source was milk or chicken or beef, you would get enough quality protein. It would be a really boring diet and you should definitely have some form of variety there. But if you went to go the plant-based route and relied on one source of protein, you probably wouldn't get enough of an overall quality. It needs to be put together a little bit better. And to give an example, I know I drew my eyes to heaven and had a few question marks around that at the time, but it didn't seem to have a major impact on performance or on like specific markers around health either. When Paul Mannion looked to take on the vegan lifestyle, the Dublin footballer, I know there was even publications on that, called a case study around a player who took it on. It was obvious enough he was the player in question. I think it was published in the journal Nutrients, but it looked at a series of measures and like he was fine from all that, both in terms of muscle mass, muscle gain, strength levels, recovery, but some of the blood markers as well, everything was fine there. If going the plant-based route, I would suggest looking at some form of supplementation there, not to be pushing supplements, and obviously find out more information around this yourself, but it can be a little more difficult to get all of the different types of amino acids you want if going the plant-based route. Another question I get sometimes is it worth taking casein before bed? Like, will it have an impact? And the big answer here is, how much total protein are you getting a day? If casein before bed will help you meet that, by all means go for it. But if you can just get enough from foods across the day, no reason for it whatsoever. The biggest issue I see around protein time, and hence why I'm bringing it up here and including it in one of the 4 mistakes, is that people tend to go for big portions at sporadic times. So they might have a shake made with milk, so you're talking like 50, 60 grams after training, but very little all day before that. Or they come home from training and they're like, oh, I haven't eaten much protein today, and eat like a whole chicken or a massive steak and a load of eggs. So it's this massive portion of 60 grams and very little earlier in the day or very little spread out across the day or over the course of a few days, leading to like inconsistent amounts day to day or meal to meal. Or sometimes people have a huge protein breakfast the morning after training. If you trained like Thursday night and Friday morning, like, I need a big protein meal to help me recover from that, but then you have very little for the rest of the day. Realistically, it will get you enough. Like 1 to 2 servings will get you enough protein. You can have like 2 60-gram servings or 2 65-gram servings. It will help you get enough and you will use the majority of that. But it is usually better to just spread them out in terms of like managing your appetite, regulating blood sugar, just in case you end up missing one of those meals for whatever reason. It means you're really low on protein then. But it is also just a better habit to be in, to try and aim for a serving of protein 4 to 5 times a day without thinking you need to weigh it out and everything. Just looking for like a palm-sized portion, so the palm of your hand-sized portion, 4 to 5 times a day will generally ensure you're getting enough and spread those out quite evenly. A couple of final tips to finish off on this bit is ensure you're having a serving at breakfast time. I've listed out the different options there, but make that the big priority in terms of including protein over the next while if you feel it's something that needs addressing. Look to have a decent serving, like a high serving, once each day, so it allows a little bit more flexibility around the rest of your meals. Personally, I like an overnight oats made with 60 grams of porridge, 200 grams of Greek yogurt, a scoop of whey, and just whatever fruit and water I want to put in there then. But that gives me 45 to 50 grams. It just gives me more flexibility in my other meals then to know I've gotten about 50 grams here already of the about 150 I want to aim for. So if I want to change around other meals, it'll be more flexible there. I have that option. And just finally, a couple of budget options then, because protein can be expensive, cost of living, all that. Pork is an underrated protein source in terms of how much is in a pork chop or a pork loin that you can cook in the slow cooker. Packet ham, not to have all your diet based around that. I'm not going on to talk about the people who say a lot around packaging and chemicals and foods around that way. 0% Greek yogurt, I am convinced, is the cheapest high quality source of protein out there. Tuna, the canned tuna is really good. Hat tip to my buddy that was in the Munster Academy. And bacon medallions are also another really good high quality source of protein.